Namaskar. Hello and welcome to this very special commemoration today on this 17th of September 2023. सनातन भारत के मान बिंदुओं में जैसा कि हम अपने पटल पर देख पा रहे हैं, राम राज्य की जो संकल्पना है वह भारत में एक आदर्श राज्य के रूप में रही और आज भी समूचे भारतवर्ष का जो 150 करोड़ नागरिक है उसके चित्त में राम राज्य को लेकर एक बड़ी ही अद्भुत श्रद्धा और संकल्पना रही है। पर पिछले 9 वर्षों से भारतवर्ष एक अभिनव प्रकार के एक राज्य के अंतर्गत शासित हो रहा है और यह जो एक टॉक सीरीज हम लोगों ने रीथिंक इंडिया के तत्वाधान में इसको प्रणीत करने का प्रयास किया है। So this is all about a tete-a-tete with the chroniclers of मोदी राज्य। प्राइम मिनिस्टर नरेंद्र मोदी जो 2014 में एक बड़े ही प्रचंड बहुमत के साथ, जनमत के साथ भारत को शासित करने का, भारत की जो वो अपने को प्रधान सेवक के रूप में अंगीकार करना ज्यादा पसंद करते हैं, तो उस मोदी राज्य के बारे में a lot of conversation has been happening और न केवल भारतवर्ष पर पिछले एक हफ्ते के पहले हमने देखा कि समूचा विश्व इस मोदी राज्य के जो आयाम है उसको लेकर अभिभूत हो चुका है। So either you love the prime ministership of Mr. Narendra Modi or you hate it but you can't ignore it, as they say all about it. So we just felt ki what lies beneath the persona, and today, since it's a very special day, it happens to be the birth anniversary of Prime Minister Narendra Modi, 17th of September, which he commemorated by inaugurating a phenomenal convention center very near to the Indira Gandhi International Airport in Delhi, the Yasho Bhumi, and he launched the PM Vishwakarma Yojana with a massive layout of around 13,000 crores. So it makes all the more imperative ki what actually constitutes the personality and the beliefs of this leader out here. Or we at Rethink India felt like exploring and understanding and knowing it well from the very chroniclers. वो जो एक हमारे संस्कृत में उक्ति है कि भाई जहां ना पहुंचे रवि वहां पहुंचे कवि. So when an author, when a scholar, when a thinker, when he researches a personality, he tries to extract out I would say the key nuggets behind that. तो यहाँ पे आज एक पर्सनालिटी का गान नहीं है, पर वो जो पर्सनालिटी उसके अराउंड जो प्रिंसिपल्स हैं, जो अंडरनीथ एस्पेक्ट्स हैं, उनको हम यहाँ पर एक्सप्लोर करने का भाव है. So we are starting with the I would also like to say that in the last 9 years, a lot many books have come to chronicle the personality, the policies, the entire contours taken up by Prime Minister Narendra Modi. But one book which stands apart, and this book was kind of a maiden endeavor by first, I would say, very humble but a very deeply nuanced observer of the political facets. So we would be having Randeep Sisodia ji with us as the author of the book, The Crusader. और before we embark upon this journey, Randeep ji इस पुस्तक के बारे में कहते हैं कि for a long while I was thinking of writing a book on leadership with politics as a backdrop. Then it occurred to me that I should write a book on politics with leadership as a backdrop. So before we embark upon this unraveling of the enigma called Prime Minister Narendra Modi, and as we have said in our introductory note, the exponential efficacy which we are finding under his reign, the spectacular operational efficiency across almost all frontiers of national pursuits, it has inspired a galaxy of thinkers to really unravel the leadership nuggets which drive it. Kaise the functioning is happening. So this is a kind of a series. We will be talking to Randeep ji at 9 p.m. For the next 7 days. And on my backdrop, you can see that these are the 7 major themes around which we would be unraveling. And today being the inaugural edition, Randeep ji will be discussing from his vantage point that how he sees Modi's persona and his beliefs, which are actually driving the massive, the Leviathan of government of India, and perhaps inspiring the global leaders at large. But before that, I would like to say कि कहते हैं ना कि एक ऑथर का एक दृष्टि होती है, एक पर्सपेक्टिव होती है कि so what, एक brief परिचय about the persona of Randeep ji himself. He was born to a first generation grassroots level honest politician, and a very much quotes that honest politician is a kind of an oxymoron these days, but this Randeep ji, somewhere he inherits that legacy from his father of honesty. And he's a lawyer. He's a practicing, his father was a practicing lawyer, Mr. Ranbir Singh ji, and who joined politics for higher ideals of working for the glory of the country and its people. And Randeep ji inculcated similar ideas and ideals from his father. And from the very early age, he has witnessed firsthand the trials and tribulations of an honest politician. So authors तो बहुत सारे हैं, but जो कहते हैं ना कि जो अनुभव करना एक पॉलिटिशियन की लाइफ क्या होती है, and that really makes Randeep ji apart, and the great observations, the kind of perspectives what he is able to put forth in his maiden book. So it comes from that grounding over there. And more importantly, he has got extensive exposure to the ground level political dynamics, as well as watched the excitement of developing an election campaign and participating in it. So these valuable experiences helped Randeep ji understand the psyche of political leaders and party workers. So एक context बहुत महत्वपूर्ण है. I might be coming from an extremely scholarly background and seeing things from an outsider's perspective, but then being inside the ring and how the punches are made and how the responses are done, political thinking क्या होती है. So he comes from that deep akhada of politics. So that is what refines his view phenomenally. So Randeep ji was born and brought up in Hoshiarpur, Punjab, and he was directly exposed to 2 very, very critical events in post-independence India's history. And that shaped up his own psyche and his beliefs and his worldview. And this has left a deep impression on him. The first one was during the black era of India's democracy, the emergency era, whereby no lawyer was ready to pick up the cases of the nationalist organization, the RSS. But his father, Ranbir Singh ji, he fought for them in the courts. It was a kind of a persecution. We all know about it. That's a different matter. But then that had a great impact on his understanding. So Randeep ji experienced how people had to roam around in disguise and sneak out of the back doors to save themselves from arrest. And second was when terrorism gripped Punjab. So both these at a very, very impressionable age made Randeep ji acutely aware of the concept of democracy. And not on the high pedestals of some books or coming from some prince, some utterances over there, but what a person feels in his personal life. So that is where he comes from. So he has a practitioner's understanding of the concepts of democracy, liberty, secularism, rights and duties of citizens, and responsibilities of the polity. So a practitioner जिसने अनुभव किया है, वो क्या जाने पीर पराई जाके पैर ना पड़ी बेवाई. So this is so this background is so very important कि ये जो लिखा है, इन्होंने जो अनुभव किया है, it comes from that experience. And since Hoshiarpur happens to be in the parlance a small town, and he comes from a quintessential middle class family, so his sole ticket to social and economic mobility was education. He graduated in economics and mathematics, quite a lovely combo. And subsequently, he went on to do his master's in business administration, specializing in human resources, and joined the corporate world, and worked for around 2.5 decades over there. And he practiced and preached both the science of leadership, individual and organizational behavior, culture building and transformation, operations, government affairs, public policy, and public relations. So quite a wide, variegated experience spanning for 2.5 decades. And he also remained at heart a diligent student of Indian politics and continued to keenly observe and track the growth and fortunes of political parties and its leaders. Proud of India's glorious past as well as his independent struggle, Randeep ji continues to closely watch India's slow and tedious march towards prosperity and greatness, celebrating few hits but lamenting many misses on the way. And he continues to uphold his middle-class sensibilities, which he thinks echoes with the millions of silent aspirational Indians. And he feels his writings represent their silent voice. So the Crusader, this voice, this is the voice of the aspirational Indian middle class, which Randeep ji comes from. And having led people at corporate headquarters at metropolitans as well as factories in hinterland, Randeep ji broadened his horizons, understood the hopes, aspirations, and fears of Indians across social hierarchies and classes. And his last role was the Vice President, Human Resources, Government Affairs, and Public Policy with the Global Education Corporation. And he finally bid goodbye to the corporate world in early 2018 and ventured out on his own as a leadership coach and a management consultant. So he's convinced that many concepts he preached and practiced in the corporate in the corporate area, based as they are on research and empirical data, are applicable to political organizations and its leaders for more effective functioning of the polity. And understanding the science behind the behavior of people, leaders and organizations, as well as having deep knowledge and insights on Indian politics, it puts Randeep ji in a very, very unique position. So a master's in business administration and human resource, having a phenomenal 2.5 decade experience. So this puts him at a very, very advantageous position to understand, because politics is all about people, and that's where he comes with deep insight, preparation for a lifetime, they say over there. And he is able to not just chronicle the political events as they happen, but more importantly, provide insights on why they happen. And that's why The Crusader is such an important book on the leadership principles of Narendra Modi. And he summarized it very, very well in the very start, a book on politics and with leadership as the backdrop. And based on the principles of leadership and behavioral sciences, enabling him to suggest solutions to vexed problems. So why Narendra Modi ji is acting on certain areas the way he is acting, I think he is dissecting over there. And I'm joined by Dr. Surbhi, who is a medico out there. So how cadavers are dissected. So the complex Indian polity. So I think Randeep ji would be shedding more insights in this lovely series for the next 7 days. And Randeep ji believes that India's future is bright despite its degenerated polity. He sees hope in Narendra Modi and has kept a track of his progress throughout his first term as the Prime Minister and continues to do so going forward. And in the process, he also closely follows Modi's opponents as well as the overall Indian political ecosystem. And this puts him in a good position to author this book. And a first-time author, he is very, very optimistic that this book will help the people develop a more comprehensive and accurate understanding of the politics that played out during Modi ji's first term, and in its own way will nudge Indian polity back to the higher ideals as envisaged by its ancestors, as well as Bapu, Mahatma Gandhi. and he has unflinching faith in India's rich spiritual heritage and intends to do his bit by promoting it through his writings in his own unique way. कहते हैं ना कि परिचय लेखक का होना बहुत आवश्यक है कि उनके जो इष्ट हैं या जिनके बारे में उन्होंने बात लिखी है. गोस्वामी तुलसीदास जी का परिचय प्राथमिक है राजा राम की बात करने से पहले. So perhaps this series, which is not a hagiography perhaps about the Prime Minister Narendra Modi, nor we are blind critiques over there, but we are trying to unravel the underlying principles, the underlying political view, the political ecosystem, what we saw from a brief profile readout of Randeep ji. So over to him for this initial, I would say, talk today. And Randeep ji, we discussed, and as I said that we wanted to have a series over there. So 7 days, 7 themes we have shortlisted, and today being the birthday of Modi ji. So his personality and his beliefs, and before that an overall view as to what inspired him, what is the core crux of the book, The Crusader. So over to Randeep sir for his remarks, for his talk out here. Sir.
सबसे पहले नमस्कार राघव जी. Thank you, thanks a lot for such a detailed introduction of mine. I really appreciate that, and it's an honor to be at your program. A detailed set of chats that we are going to have, so I'm looking forward to that. Also, I would like to, through your medium, wish our Honorable Prime Minister very happy birthday. हमारी कामना है कि भगवान उनको खूब लंबी आयु दे और शक्ति दे, ताकि वो देश को और ऊंचा लेके जाएं, और सिर्फ देश ही नहीं, लोगों की भी जो वो प्रधान सेवक बन के सेवा कर रहे हैं वो और करते रहें. आई थिंक बहुत ज़रूरत है और कुछ सालों तक उनकी लीडरशिप और उनके मार्गदर्शन का देश को और ऊंचाइयों पे लेके जाएं. सो बहुत बहुत उनको हार्दिक शुभकामनाएं और बधाई. With regards to my book, just a brief, I mean, you've anyway given an excellent introduction, so मैं उसमें और क्या ऐड करूं मैं सोच रहा हूं, but I think what I would like to say is that this obviously is a chronicle on the first 5 years of Modi's term, and what really motivated me, Raghav ji, to write this book was his fantastic comeback in 2019. I observed his full first term very closely, and also from, as you mentioned, a leadership vantage, and for somebody, first of all, it was kind of a record for a party to come back again with a higher majority. So this hadn't happened, I think, for the last 30-40 years. In fact, I think Jawaharlal Nehru was the only person who probably came back with a higher majority. So it was probably only in time somebody had come back with a much higher majority than his first time, and again in the very next term. So that was something really phenomenal, I believe. And given that India, for the past so many years before Modi came in, actually had a minority government. Even UPA, which ruled for 10 years, it was a minority government throughout. And a lot of people call it a lost decade, and rightly so, because we know how policy paralysis hit the government, and the kind of inflation we had, and the kind of corruption scandals that were tumbling out, from the cupboards on a daily basis. And of course, the precarious law and order situation, the security aspects, China was nibbling at our, borders. We had a lot of issues with Pakistan. And, for Modi to have come in, beset with all these problems, and to where we sit today, you can make out that there's been a tremendous effort which has gone into this. a tremendous transformation which had to happen at a policy level. And he talks about reform, perform, and transform, and that is exactly something which has happened in the last in his first 5 years, and then it has continued. So my book one tracks his first 5 year term. So what were the moves and counter moves of BJP and opposition, and which actually impacted the political narrative. So I state all that, some of the key events which shaped the political narrative, and it impacted the fortunes of both BJP, Modi, and the opposition. So I track all that, and then I also explain from a leadership perspective some of the things as they happened, so why they happened. Then I also delve deeper into my leadership experience. As you mentioned, I call myself a student of leadership, because I've practiced and preached that, and and answered a very vexed. It's been a puzzle as to how do politicians win trust of people, and so I devote a section on that, and I talk about four key things. Which really help a politician to win trust of people. And of course, I end the book with another hotly debated subject, which is the idea of India. And I do give there's a deep dive into our ancient past, and I kind of rediscover the idea of India, and I mean now I think probably we should be calling it idea of Bharat, and there is still a lot of debate happening on that. So I do end the book, that while Modi may have won the 2019 battle, but the idea of India continues. The war for idea of India continues. So that's how the book ends. So
Mhm.
that's giving a very broadside view of the book and what inspired me to
Mhm.
write the book.
That's truly lovely, and everyone has some idea or the other as to what happened. They have their own opinions and views about it. But what we really wish to understand deeply, as more as an academic rigor, because you have been, as you yourself said, that student of leadership and having worked across the spectrum. So let's come to the core theme of today's talk is what is the quintessence of Modi ji's personality and the
Yeah,
beliefs what he has. Criticism is a part and parcel of democracy, and as you said that you also follow the opponents of Narendra Modi ji, as we say that the physics का सिद्धांत है कि बिना friction के आप चल नहीं सकते हैं धरती पे, so obviously you
mm,
need
mm,
some sort of
mm,
opposition as well. So what constitutes him? This is from a first principles analysis of the nuggets of leadership. As you said
yeah,
that a book
yeah,
on politics, but leadership as the backdrop. So that is the
yeah,
underlying understanding we wish to have from you.
yeah. So, yeah, Raghav, thanks for asking that question. So, we are taught in psychology, and I think a lot of people already know, even if they are not students of psychology, कि जो personality shape होती है किसी इंसान की, वो पहले 5 या 10 सालों में हो जाता है,
Mhm.
right? So we really need to delve a little bit deeper into Modi ji's initial years, and हमको सब पता है the chai wala thing and all that, but somewhere in my research, I I kind of was able to discover this interview in which he talks about his education. His initial years, obviously we know it was in एक गांव में, छोटे वराट नगर, छोटे से गांव में एक स्कूल में उनकी गवर्नमेंट स्कूल में उनकी एजुकेशन हुआ. And he mentioned that he was a very good debater, and obviously we know that, so, but also the fact that वहाँ पे एक लाइब्रेरी खुला था. वो उनके रियासत के जो राजा थे गायकवाड़ फैमिली के, तो उन्होंने एक लाइब्रेरी खोला था. And he developed a lot of interest, and he had a lot of interest in reading books, and so he used to be a most diligent patron of that library, not patron, but a member of the library. He used to go there very regularly. And he talked that, he was very influenced by, he read a lot on Vivekananda and other leaders also, Swami Vivekananda. But he mentions that he was extremely influenced by Swami Vivekananda's, life and his philosophy. So that gives us immediately, that gives us key insights into his belief systems, because he mentions that whatever Swamiji would say or whatever he would write, or his key quotes, he was highly influenced by that. And you can also see when he became the prime minister, the kind of I mean, he did bring Swami Vivekananda onto the national pedestal. And I also believe that Swami Vivekananda actually was the person who led the awakening of Indian, ancient culture and heritage in modern India. While Gandhi, uh, he brought about awakening in masses about uh, about about bringing people together against the British rule. So Mahatma Gandhi, he played that role. I mean, he obviously he had a lot of I think there are a lot of negatives to Gandhi, but we are not going to get into that because this is not the forum for that. But I think nobody can deny the fact that he was the one who initially brought about an awakening in the masses against the British rule initially. I mean, and a lot of freedom fighters, including Bose and Bhagat Singh, were initially influenced a lot by Gandhi. And actually, Bhagat Singh does say that he came into this movement primarily because of Gandhi. But Vivekanand ji, he was the person who actually inspired a lot of confidence in the youth and generally in the people also in India on our rich cultural heritage. And a lot of those folks who were inspired by that got into the independent movement. And actually, if you see, including Gandhi, everybody, whether it's Bose or Bhagat Singh, they all looked up to Swami Vivekananda ji, and they were inspired by his teaching. And there was no disconnect between them and what Swami Vivekananda philosophized. While there were a lot of disconnects between the philosophies of Gandhi, Bose, and Bhagat Singh, I mean, or Azad, I mean, those revolutionaries. But there was no I mean, all these people looked up to Swami Vivekananda. So he was really the tallest of them all, and he's the guy who influenced. He's the person who had also a very strong influence on Narendra Modi. And Swami Vivekananda had a lot of pride in the nation and our culture and rich heritage, and you can see that in Prime Minister Modi also. Swami Vivekananda was extremely uh, uh, he was he was a great orator, and so is our Prime Minister. A lot of influence has come in from Swami
To
Vivekananda. So
say
that's
that the young Narendra Modi imbibed a lot of the Vedantic teachings of Swami Vivekananda, Narendranath Dutt early in life. A lot of people study Vivekananda, but to imbibe those teachings in your own self is perhaps that learnability in the Prime Minister who rose to be the Prime Minister. So this is somewhere, this is a very, very important aspect what
yeah.
Randeep ji has enunciated. Please
Uh,
go on.
Yeah, and then so let me now take up some actually take up some of the criticisms, and that will help us deep dive into his personality.
Mhm,
So one of the key criticisms, which is a lot of fake propaganda, I believe, but one of the key criticisms of Modi has been that he's a highly ambitious person
mhm,
and has a lot of personal interest and kind of a narcissist, isn't it? That's
mhm,
what people talk about him. But if you look at his let's look at his life. uh, he renounced family life very
mhm,
early in his career. Actually, he left home. He then joined RSS. He did a lot of social service, and then of course he was linked with BJP, where he did a lot of back end party work. So till the age of 51, he was just a person in the background helping organizations with a lot of operational issues. It was only at the age of 51 in 2001 when he was actually directed to go and take on the administrative role of as a chief minister of Gujarat. So if a person was really so ambitious, he wouldn't have waited till the age of 51, and that too he was asked to go, not that he himself aspired to be the chief minister. His sole aim was associated with RSS to build pride in our cultural heritage and unite Indians behind that. That was his key aim. And BJP also, he saw it as a vehicle to achieve that aim. And whatever he could do as a normal party worker, he did that. So I think that itself proves this charge is absolutely baseless. And then the second question, which a lot of people talk about today, is that he's always helping two, three of his friends. He's highly corrupt, and these are the people like Adani and some big huge industrialists who are making a lot of money on his behalf. And I think I just need to one, of course, what I just said uh, disapproves the point, but also uh, I don't know how many of us know that actually Modi did not have a personal bank account till he became the chief minister. And he opened up a bank account because that was the need. He was forced to open it because the salary of a chief minister had to be deposited somewhere, right? So person till the age of 51 who hasn't had a bank account, never felt the need of money. I mean, he could. How could that person be corrupt? I mean, where is the proof of that? And secondly, if you look at his family, he obviously we know he doesn't have he doesn't have any heirs. So we know but if you look at his close family, his brothers and their children, they are all doing odd jobs. So his mother also, we know, she lived like a typical middle class person in a small place, one or two room set apartment in Ahmedabad, the mother of a prime minister. We know that here is a person who's completely incorruptible, right? So that is very clear. So one, inspired, highly inspired by our rich cultural heritage. Secondly, highly incorruptible. And thirdly, I would say extremely courageous person. And I would just like to give you one or two examples of maybe one example for that. And we all know in 1992, there was an Ekta Yatra which was led by the then president of BJP, MM Joshi Saab, or it had to culminate at Srinagar at Lal Chowk by hosting a flag. और उस समय सिचुएशन ऐसा था कि terrorist had given a threat कि उसमें ऐसा पोस्टर लगा दिए गए थे लाल चौक पे 2 दिन पहले कि अगर किसी ने अपनी माँ का दूध पिया है तो आप ये झंडा लहरा के दिखाइए. And that's when Modi took on the threat, and he gave back in a speech. I think all of us have heard where he said that we are going to hoist the flag, and they actually did, and nothing happened. So I mean, here is a guy, and he organized that Ekta Yatra. So while it was the face was Joshi ji, and rightly so because he was the president, but Modi was the person who organized that yatra, and he took care of all these key details, and eventually, along with Joshi ji, he hosted the flag. So that just shows, how courageous this person has been. आज राहुल गांधी एकता यात्रा, सॉरी, अपने भारत जोड़ो या भारत तोड़ो यात्रा करते हैं और लाल चौक पे आज वो खुलेआम झंडा लहरा सकते हैं, तो वो किसकी देन है? वो इसी सरकार की देन है कि वो आज कर पा रहे हैं, नहीं तो
so beautifully explained that a person, a youngster coming from a very humble, a normal, I would say even a lower middle class family background, who got impregnated with the highest Vedantic ideals from none other than Swami Vivekanand, who lived those ideals. Nishkam Karmyog ki jo baat hai, till 5 decades of his own life, he lived with that. And as Randeep ji very beautifully summarized or indicated that जो नार्सिसिज्म की बात है, जो भारत में अवधूत या सन्यासी के अंदर जो एक संसार को लेके उदासीनता रहती है, इट्स अ नॉर्मल सेंस इफ यू गो टू अ सेल्फ रियलाइज्ड सोल, सो परहैप्स, बट एक कर्मयोगी के भाव में. So this is not a eulogy, but this is the backgrounding what he is setting out, that what shaped that personality till 51 years of age. He was just working as a neev ki, as an organizational soldier, whatever responsibilities were given over there, कि जो organizational self है वो मेरे individual self से बड़ा है. I think that samarpan, that surrender, I think Randeep ji has mentioned so very well, and the courage जो सिंह सदृश की भाई, there is not too much of attachment to the body part but to the higher goals and ideals. I think that he lived, what example he gave at the height of 1992, when that Kashmir Palayan, that call, that Kashmiri Pandit exodus was just, Cold War was just round the corner. So that was the time. I think very intricately explained, and the proof of the simplicity of the family. So this is not a PR blitzkrieg कि भाई बहुत साधारणतया एक साधारण जीवन है. So I think very nicely, Dr. Surbi, you would like to put across any learning, any aspect, what you're finding, or any question to Randeep ji to further decomplicate, because this is the enigma. वो enigma को हम किसी भी प्रकार से interpret कर सकते हैं, but वो जो enigmatic personality है उसका जो उब्रिंगण हुआ. We at Rethink India had the great good fortune of inviting his class teacher in 2014, Gordhan Das Patel ji. We got him, flew from Vadnagar to Delhi. It was a program at IIT Delhi, and there he really explained that how people come from a lot of backgrounds, but एक spirited soul जो होता है, that spark, वो जो पढ़ा है उसको गुना है, and that's what has led him to such a phenomenal global success, what we witnessed just a week back. Dr. Surbi?
Yeah, so first of all, I would like to render my salutations to Randeep ji for so beautifully enunciating and describing, how the foundations of Honorable Prime Minister, his persona, his beliefs have been laid, and he has so vividly described his learnings and his time with Swami Vivekanand ji, his learnings from his Swami Vivekanand ji's persona. In fact, Nishkam Karmyog, which Vivekanand ji is inspiring still till today the youth. He's an ever alive icon amongst all the youth and the citizens of our nation, and it's really inspiring to hear and know more in depth about our Honorable Prime Minister Modi ji. Please go
Some
on.
more anecdotes as to what created this personality, which is inspiring, which is driving India's destiny for future. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you, Surbhi ji, Raghav ji. So, the most important, I believe, and for any student of leadership, the most important aspect of a leader is his decision making, right? This is where Modi stands apart, extremely decisive. And his decision is driven by India first approach. So if you have a clear vision in front of you, if you have clarity of purpose, and the driving force is the interest of the nation, then you are bound to make the right decisions, most of the time. And let me give you two examples of that. The first obviously is, demonetization. And a lot of people say that, that was a lunatic call and this, that, the other. But you'll have to see the background. The background is, and I've explained that in my book, India was going through runaway inflation for the past, 5, 6 years. The UPA rule, the average inflation was around 10%. We had a huge NPA problem. Modi actually shared this surprising data in the parliament after he took over as PM, that in the first 6 decades, India had only given out loans of 18 lakh crores. But up till 2008, and from 2008 to 2014, 36 lakh crores of loans were given, and he talked about, phone banking by the UPA government. And so now you can very well imagine, the kind of money which got floated into the market. And all was, utilized, or most of it was getting utilized, for crony capitalism. So there was a lot of black money in the market. I mean, there were reports of, National Institute of Finance and Policy. That report was actually never tabled in Parliament, but I believe it was DNA which actually, wrote an article wherein the NI, the National Institute of Policy of NI, PFP, I think is the institution, a government institution, which actually made a report and said that 62% of India's economy was actually black. Arun Kumar ji, a very famous, economist, he actually also wrote an article, and his findings were also similar, that there was, 50, 60% of our economy was on black money. I mean, and even if you look at it anecdotally, I mean, if you went to buy a house or a flat, you had to dish out 60% of black money. I mean, we all know that. So that was the kind of, and the NPA situation, like I said, it was bad. I mean, in the sense that we had there was 9 lakh crores of outstanding debts which people weren't able to pay back to the banks, and the banks were really in a very precarious situation. I mean, to such an extent that Modi could not announce this thing to the world, because had he announced it in 2014, our whole system would have crashed. The investors would have gone back. We would have got very poor ratings, and no money would have come to India, and the money which was there would have actually got flown back. So that was such a bad situation, probably situation as bad as 1991. So in that scenario, he undertook the decision of demonetization, right? Now, the same suggestion was made to Indira Gandhi in her term, and she actually laughed off the idea, saying that obviously that was like committing harakiri. But with Modi, it was not about his own self. I mean, it was about what the nation needed at that standpoint, at that point of time, and he took that decision. It was a highly risky decision because more than 100 crore people were going to get inconvenienced, and yet you see there was not even a single minor protest by the public. Why? because public saw that there was a sincere, effort behind this. There was a very honest.
I would just like to come in for a moment, and what
Yeah,
Randeep has mentioned a very, very critical aspect. The aspect of selflessness. When the vision is clear, when you know that this decision is going to fructify in the collective good. There is no consideration of the personal self, the kind of criticism which will come to you, or as Randeep ji said, it's a very highly risky decision for your own personal interest. But then the art of leadership is all about decision making. This is the intertwined aspect, and this is where the Vedantic lineage of Swami Vivekananda ji comes into place. We are just a speck in the ocean. We are just for a momentary part, but what we do, it has to be for the larger good. So I think that very Vedantic aspect drives the decision making of Modi ji, even if it's a highly risky aspect, but it is good for the country as a whole. So that with that determinism, we will sail through. I think maybe in this context, you can please elaborate that psychological aspect ki bhai, when the whole world, the whole country has been put in queues, people are elaborating upon ki bhaiya itna casualty ho gaya, people are trying to build up narratives. So when you are at the helm of affairs, witnessing it all, so what goes on in your mind out there? That very
so
aspect.
Raghav ji, it's a very good question, and actually मैंने इसको डिटेल में बुक में बताया है. Actually,
Okay.
I am really surprised कि कुछ scholars ने इस पे रिसर्च करना चाहिए था. I don't
Uh-huh.
know why no such scholar took this up as a research project. कि इतना बड़ा जो change हुआ, and it 100 करोड़ से ऊपर लोग inconvenienced हुए, और उसके बावजूद भी एक भी छोटा सा प्रोटेस्ट नहीं हुआ. It was something phenomenal which happened. बट किसी ने उस पे प्रोजेक्ट नहीं किया. ये करना चाहिए. बट एनीवेज, मैंने अपनी बुक में सारे डिटेल दिए कि ऐसा क्यों है. एक तो रीजन मैंने बताया. सी, दूसरा राघव जी, आप भी जानते हैं, देश त्रस्त था, लोग त्रस्त थे. प्राइस राइज, इन्फ्लेशन देख लीजिए, करप्शन इतना ज्यादा था, ब्लैक मनी इतना, सबको नजर आ रहा था. तो इनफैक्ट मैं भी क्यू में, आप भी क्यू में खड़े हुए होंगे, मैं भी बहुत क्यूज में खड़ा हुआ और मैं बात करता था, और लोग बोलते थे कि हाँ, हम इनकन्वीनियंस हो रहे हैं, लेकिन अच्छा है, ये होना चाहिए. मतलब एंड पीपल वर आल्सो नॉट क्लियर कि क्या निकल के आएगा, लेकिन ये था कि हाँ, ये होना चाहिए. जो जिनके पास ब्लैक मनी है वो इनकन्वीनियंस तो होंगे, जरूर होंगे इससे. और people were, happy about this, and that they were happy that somebody is doing something about it. ये ब्लैक मनी का जो हमारे को स्कर्ज हमारे पर था, इतने जब से हम आजाद हुए हैं, तब से करप्शन और ब्लैक मनी चल रहा है, बट किसी ने आज तक इतनी गहरी चोट नहीं मारी थी. और इसीलिए, क्योंकि इट वाज अ हाईली रिस्की प्रोपोजिशन. But as you said, when you are selfless, your aim is India first. Your aim is not your own, convenience or your own position. Then you take that decision. तो
It's
वो
like a
मैंने
soldier marching on the Tiger
हाँ
Hill and
हाँ हाँ
understanding that he can be slain, but with that valiant courage, he goes and dismantles the
या
enemy bunkers. So that is the spirit, the selfless spirit where you can, I think that is underlying, because आपने जो कहा ना decision making कि भाई आप pass it
तो
on to the other government, pass it
हाँ
on to other people, but then taking the whole
ये
responsibility on your
हाँ,
shoulders.
सॉरी टू इंटरप्ट, देखो
Yeah, please.
आपने बहुत अच्छा एनालॉजी ये जो सोल्जर का लिया और वो वॉर का लिया. इसी कॉन्टेक्स्ट में मैं एक और आपको एग्जांपल देता हूँ विच
Mhm.
शोज हिज डिसाइसिवनेस, सेल्फलेस
Selfless.
डिसीजन मेकिंग. आप देखिए, बालाकोट स्ट्राइक्स जब हुआ,
Mhm.
तो जब ये बालाकोट स्ट्राइक्स हुए थे, वो इलेक्शन टाइम था तब, राइट. उससे पहले जो भी सर्वेज आ रहे थे, वो क्लियरली आ रहा था कि मोदी जीत रहे हैं. ठीक है. अब जब ये हुआ, तो ये इतना रिस्की डिसीजन था. अगर एक भी जहाज हमारा एनिमी टेरिटरी में गिर जाता, तो ये निश्चित था राघव जी कि मोदी जी हार जाते इलेक्शन.
Mhm.
आपको मैं बताता हूँ. आप देखिए, जब वो हमारे पायलट अभिनंदन
हम्म,
जब वो पाकिस्तान की कस्टडी में आ गए, तो देश में कितना डिस्पोंडेंसी हो गया था, आपको याद है उस समय? वो एक
yes,
दो दिन थे, जो मतलब लोग अब वो अपने कैंडल मार्चेस निकालने लग गए थे कि उसको लेके आओ, मूड इतना सलन हो गया था पूरी कंट्री में। लेकिन उसमें भी फिर मोदी जी ने जब फाइनली उनको धमकी देना पड़ा, तो वो अभिनंदन जी आए। तो मैं कहना चाह रहा हूँ
हम्म,
कि अगर वो नहीं मतलब खुदा ना खास्ता या वो नहीं आते और उनको कुछ हो जाता, तो
हम्म,
ये क्लियर था कि मोदी जी ही वुड हैव बीन फेसिंग डिफीट। और वो हाईली पॉसिबल था, बिकॉज 12 जेट्स आप भेज रहे हो,
हम्म,
मतलब इट वाज रिमार्केबल कि वो सब अपना निशाना मार के वो सभी वापस आ गए। लेकिन आई थिंक द एयरफोर्स आल्सो वुड हैव बीन रेडी फॉर सम कैजुअलिटीज, और वो कैजुअलिटीज हो जाते, और जो कि मतलब 99% मतलब पॉसिबिलिटी ऑफ कमिंग बैक विदाउट अ सिंगल कैजुअलिटी probably was less than 1%, or which meant that it would have been a very negative impact. It would have had a very negative impact on Modi and his election prospects. But फिर भी उन्होंने वो डिसीजन लिया, क्योंकि दैट वाज द राइट डिसीजन टू टेक। सो इट वाज इंडिया फर्स्ट। और लोग बोलते हैं एक्चुअली कि वो उन्होंने इसलिए किया कि वो फिर सिंपैथी ले जाएंगे, बट लोगों को ये नहीं सोचते हैं कि अगर कहीं भी वो छोटा सा भी एक फेलियर हो जाता, तो मोदी would have lost the election, or it would have been difficult for him to
Sir, I have
win
an
that.
oblique question on this
हाँ,
frontier. Like, since you have been a part of the corporate world and business organizations per se, they have a way of assessing a risk of their bottom line, of their stakeholders, shareholders. A lot of analysis goes into that.
yeah,
And
yeah,
the
yeah.
decision making is not to the extreme part of it. CEOs are not meant to go to the extreme mile. So, what difference you find of decision making in a closed, limited liability corporation, a business world, and in the context of a nation like what Modi ji took, and perhaps the way you are explaining the Balakot episode, it is perhaps the President Kennedy moment for India when Khrushchev has
Yeah,
sent
yeah,
the
yeah.
Cuban Missile Crisis era. So where the whole US cabinet came out ki bhai, you remove your nukes from the Cuban soil, or be prepared. It was quite a decisive moment that way. So just try to contrast this, because for the youngsters, भाई आप ये मत करिए, वी आर अ कंजर्वेटिव सोसाइटी, हमको कहा जाता है अरे नहीं भैया ऐसा मत करो, इसमें रिस्क मत लो, ऐसा मॉडरेट पाथ में जाओ. So just try to contrast that, and how
Yeah.
differentiated are these two contexts here?
Yeah, so that's an excellent question, Arav ji. So इसमें if you ask me, uh, uh, the process of decision making remains the same, right?
Mhm, mhm,
In terms of see, decision making में क्या है कि आपका goal क्या है? You have to have clarity, right? Now, what are the set of variables in front of you on the basis of which you have to take a decision? Then you objectively analyze pros and cons of all the variables, right? And then you take a decision. So the process is the same. Only thing is, I think the pressure that you have on yourself, there's a scale and enormity of the impact that your decisions will have is obviously very different. And because of that, obviously the pressures would be different. Now, having said that, somebody like a Modi, वो जो निष्काम कर्म में बिलीव करते हैं और उनका जो पूरा अप्रोच ही लाइफ का सेल्फलेस है टू सर्व द नेशन, फिर वो प्रेशर में आएंगे ही नहीं, और इसीलिए वो ये डिसीजन ले पाए। बिकॉज अगर कोई भी और होता, तो वो उस समय डिसीजन नहीं लेता, वो डिसीजन कहता चलो इलेक्शन के बाद देखेंगे इसको। और वो कर भी सकते थे, मोदी जी आराम से कर सकते थे, बट लेकिन उनको इम्पैक्ट करना था, बिकॉज इट वाज क्वेश्चन ऑफ गिविंग इट बैक, बिकॉज अदरवाइज अगर वो नहीं करते तो फिर ये था कि फिर उनमें और यूपीए सरकार में क्या फर्क रह गया था, जो इंस्पाइट ऑफ मुंबई का जो वो कांड हुआ था, उसके बाद हमने सिर्फ कड़ी निंदा की थी और कुछ नहीं कर पाए थे, तो फिर क्या फर्क रह जाता।
And
तो
it also means going out of your comfort zone, the regular aspect, because these operations are
नहीं बट, हाँ बट राघव जी एक अगर आपने भी वो डिटेल पढ़े होंगे कि ये डिसीजन जस्ट ऑफ द कफ नहीं ले लिया गया था। इसमें पूरा हमारी इंटेलिजेंस, जैसे डोवाल जी हैं, और हमारी इंटेलिजेंस इन्वॉल्व थी। और उन्होंने एग्जैक्टली ट्रैक कर लिया था कहाँ पे टेररिस्ट सेंटर्स हैं। दे हैड यू नो ऑल द डेटा अवेलेबल विद देम, दे न्यू व्हिच द प्लेस वाज। तो वो सब, एंड वी न्यू दैट वी हैड द फायर पावर एंड द एयर पावर टू डिसमेंटल दैट। सो हमारे जो जो चार पांच की चीजें जो थी हमारे पास, वो था, हमारे पास डेटा था, हमारे पास पावर था, हमारे पास रिसोर्सेज थे। ठीक है। अब और हमें पता था कि हम ये कर लेंगे। दैट बट ओनली थिंग इज कि ऑब्वियसली वहां से भी तो रिस्पांस आना था, तो वो हमें नहीं पता था कि क्या रिस्पांस होगा। राइट, ऑफ कोर्स वो वॉर गेम्स होती हैं और ब्रॉडली मोरलेस पता रहता है, बट उसमें एग्जैक्टली क्या रिएक्शन आएगा हमको नहीं पता है ना, क्योंकि हम उनका उनका दिमाग तो नहीं जानते हैं पाकिस्तानी आर्मी का क्या चलेगा उस समय। what will influence their decisions, we don't know. I mean, we broadly know, but then we know चार पांच ऑप्शंस होंगे, चार पांच ऑप्शंस में ही काम होगा, लेकिन उसमें हमारा भी नुकसान हो सकता था। और आई थिंक हाई वेरी हाई प्रोबेबिलिटी वाज कि हमारा भी कुछ नुकसान होता, और अगर वो हो जाता तो ऑब्वियसली इट वुड हैव बीन नॉट गुड फॉर मोदी। अगर आपका अप्रोच है इंडिया फर्स्ट, अगर आपका अप्रोच है सेल्फलेस,
रही
तो
बात
फिर
पर्सनालिटी साइड की, आपने जो बात कही कि आज की थीम का कि दिस इज व्हाट कॉन्स्टिट्यूट्स व्हाट नरेंद्र मोदी इज, उनका पर्सोना क्या है। पर अब उसमें जो दूसरा बिलीफ वाला पार्ट है कि जब इतना हाईली रिस्की प्रोपोजिशन ऐसे हाईली क्रिटिकल मोमेंट पे लेना, जहां फाइनाइट प्रोबेबिलिटी है कि यू कैन लूज इट अक्रॉस, तो क्या बिलीफ ऐसे थे?
नहीं,
बिलीव्स के बारे में थोड़ा और इस पे प्रकाश
नहीं
डालें।
तो उसमें मैं आपको बताता हूँ कि आई थिंक ये तो राघव जी हमको कंफर्म हो गया था कि हम सक्सीड करेंगे।
ओके।
अगर वो नहीं होता तो आई थिंक मोदी जी वो डिसीजन नहीं लेते। बट कैजुअलिटी होने का बहुत हाई प्रोबेबिलिटी था, विच मोदी जी टुक ऑन हिमसेल्फ कि यू नो ठीक है, इसमें अगर कैजुअलिटी होगा तो मेरा ही नुकसान होगा, देश मतलब ऑब्वियसली देश का भी नुकसान है, बट जो हमारा ऑब्जेक्टिव मेन है वो अचीव हो जाएगा। राइट। तो ये बिलीव इट ऑब्वियसली हैज टू कम फ्रॉम अ पर्सन, एज आपने बोला, जो निष्काम कर्म में बिलीव करता है, जिसका अप्रोच ही यू नो देश के लिए है और देशवासियों के लिए है। तो अगर आपका ये बिलीफ है, ये बिलीफ सिस्टम है, तो आपको वो डिसीजन लेना आसान हो जाता है। और दूसरा ये है कि पर्सनल लेवल पे कोई एक्सपेक्टेशन नहीं है। अब जैसे मोदी जी आई थिंक वेरी फेमसली सेड वंस, किसी रैली में ही बोला था कि हमारा क्या है, हम तो झोला उठाएंगे और प्राइम मिनिस्टर रेजिडेंस से निकल जाएंगे जब टाइम आएगा। सो यू नो, तो ऐसे इंसान को
लवली लवली लवली।
कोई अपना मतलब जो भी उन्होंने किया है डिसीजन, ही नोज ही हैज टेकन इट फॉर द बेटरमेंट ऑफ द कंट्री। उस वजह से अगर उनको पर्सनल लॉस होता है, ही इज नॉट बॉदर्ड, बिकॉज यू नो उनकी तो लाइफ ही स्ट्रगल्स के थ्रू रही है। ही इज अ पर्सन ऑफ वेरी फ्यू मीन्स, वेरी फ्यू रिक्वायरमेंट्स। वो एक झोले में जिंदगी, मैंने बोला जैसे आधी जिंदगी से ज्यादा उन्होंने झोला पकड़ के इधर उधर ट्रैवल करके लोगों के घरों में, लोगों के गराज में वगैरह में रह के बिताए हैं। तो उस आदमी को जिसने लग्जरीज ना देखी है, ना उसको चाहे लग्जरीज की, उसको क्या फर्क पड़ता है? उसको देश के लिए काम करना है। जैसे अगेन गो बैक टू स्वामी विवेकानंद जो थे, उनको क्या था, वो बस देश के लिए करते थे, इधर उधर घूमते थे, देशवासियों को जगाते थे। वो अपना हालांकि यू नो ही डाइड वेरी यंग, यू नो दैट ही हैड लॉट ऑफ हेल्थ प्रॉब्लम्स, यू नो उनको बहुत हेल्थ प्रॉब्लम्स थे, बट ही ऑलवेज इग्नोर्ड दोज, he ignored his health, you know, for the betterment of the country. So something very similar, you know, with regards to Modi also. And if Swami Vivekananda is ideal, so it is very clear that he's trying to live, you know, those ideals. and it is very
Somewhere, as
evident.
you said that his life as a monk, as a sannyasi, and his those unknown eras when he was doing as a monk in the Himalayas, there is a larger power beyond the human self. तो जो हमने जहां से कार्यक्रम आज शुरू किया कि राम राज्य की एक संकल्पना है, तो जो एक लार्जर कॉस्मिक पावर्स में, ट्रुथ में, कि जो सत्य है उसमें जो विश्वास होना, जो हमारे यहाँ भारत में कहते हैं कि जानकी नाथ सहाय करे। अगर मैं एक सत्य का कार्य, एक धर्म का कार्य, जो दीनदयाल जी का इंटीग्रल ह्यूमैनिज्म की बात है कि जो कामनाएं हैं वो अगर हमारी धर्म आधारित और मोक्ष केंद्रित है, तो उनके लिए जो अर्थानुसंधान है, द एंटायर कॉस्मोस कंस्पायर्स टू मेक इट हैपन। तो समवेयर और द अदर देयर इज अ डीपर आध्यात्मिक सेल्फ, द डीपर स्पिरिचुअल सेल्फ of Narendra Modi ji, which makes one side the selfless part of it all, but on the other side is to take such risky decisions and a faith कि okay, this gigantic decision would be somehow supported by the larger cosmic, I would say, and he does it very very well in many of his political public rallies कि भाई मैं lucky हूँ कि the prices went down or things happened this way, that way. I think this was a fabulous eye-opener maiden session today, marking the 73rd birthday of the Honorable Prime Minister नरेंद्र मोदी। प्राइम मिनिस्टर शब्द तो पदवी के प्रति एक सम्मान के लिए लगाया जाता है, पर वो जो कहते हैं ना कि व्यक्ति का जो नाम है, the name has really become a kind of an enigma which we are trying to decode from an author who is a thinker, who is an observer of this entire ghamasan of politics, because it's not easy to really cast that spell and create, as we said, that exponential efficacy across, कि भारत मंडपम भी बनके खड़ा हो जाता है और यशो भूमि भी खड़ी हो जाती है पीएम विश्वकर्मा की, जो भारत का सो कॉल्ड कास्टिस्ट फ्रेमवर्क है। व्हाट एन इनोवेशन कि भारत की जो कलाएं थी, हमारे यहाँ 64 कलाओं का गान होता है, उन लोगों को एक प्रकार से जो सम्मान दिया गया, जो एम्पावरमेंट दिया गया, it's a huge process, a country which got splintered for around a millennia. It would take a while to restore and resurrect, but वो कहते हैं ना कि मौका तो सभी को मिलता है, but जो चौका उस पे लगा दे उसी का नाम नरेंद्र मोदी है। And what Randeep ji is unraveling from anecdotal and from the leadership perspectives, leadership keval what we understand in a colloquial sense, it's perhaps something very very deep, the decisive decision making he talked about. He brought about the anecdotal references from many places, and tomorrow we would be joining all over again for the second session of this series and talking about Modi ji's differentiated and unique governance style. तो जो नार्सिसिज्म की बात थी उसको हम बैलेंस आउट करते हैं कि भारत, सनातन भारत की जो सन्यासी परंपरा है वो संसार के प्रति एक उदासीनता का भाव ही रखती है। वो कर्मयोग की बात करती है, वो अपने कर्म में, और जो व्यापक कर्म है तो लोगों को लगता होगा कि भाई ही इज नॉट केयरिंग फॉर इट ऑल, बट ही इज केयरिंग फॉर द होल समष्टि। तो व्यष्टि का कोई उसमें महत्व नहीं रह जाता है। सो आई थिंक these nuggets of observational wisdom, someone who has been in the thick and thin of public opinion making, and he said very beautifully कि कहीं एक प्रोटेस्ट नहीं हुआ तो जनता जनार्दन भी उस एक्शन के साथ खड़ी हुई थी। जैसे श्री कृष्ण ने अगर गिरिराज जी उठाया तो सारे ग्वालवाल आके अपनी लठिया लेकर खड़े हो गए कि भैया लाला ने तो उठाए रखो है, हम भी नेक या में नेक सौ सहयोग कर दें। तो दैट्स वे विद दैट स्पिरिट ऑफ कम्युनियन, दैट सेल्फलेस स्पिरिट, that's a contrasting part of it all. I think Randeep ji would be unraveling it in the furthering sections. ये सप्ताह है हमारे यहाँ, भागवत सप्ताह ज्ञान यज्ञ की परंपरा है। तो एक मनीषी की, जिस मनीषी ने इतना इम्पैक्ट क्रिएट किया है, वी आर ट्राइंग टू अंडरस्टैंड हिज पर्सोना, और संभवतः हम सभी में आशय यह भी है भारत में कि हमारे अंदर भी कुछ वह ट्रांसफॉर्मेशन होना शुरू, हम भी कुछ सीखें उससे, हमारा जीवन भी ऊर्ध्वगामी लक्ष्यों के लिए आगे बढ़े। So with this, बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद Randeep ji for joining in and taking out time at such a prime time hour when everyone is hooked on to the national television. So we hope that this series would be a kind of a deep inroads into the Crusader, what you have named your book, and explained the nuggets out there. हम लोग कल पुनः 9 बजे इस ज्ञान यज्ञ को अनवरत रखेंगे. आज के लिए इसको विश्राम देते हैं. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Randeep.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank
sir.
you. धन्यवाद.